Hey everyone, and welcome back to Episode Club. Today we are going to be talking about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 5, The Bells, the one before the finale. And joining me today are two Johns on YouTube, they're not hard to come by because there's so many of them. So I guess John St. Baptiste, since you're muted first, introduce yourself, my friend.
John St. Baptiste, thank you for having me here, Kenzie. I actually put on a jacket and got properly dressed because this is probably going to be the last Hangouts I'm on because next Wednesday I'm definitely not going to be able to make live. But thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited to talk about this extremely divisive episode.
Well, as you guys probably know, I'm AU Pack Mule and otherwise known as John. So say hello to Mackenzie. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on and talk with you and John. I think it is I've heard it's a divisive episode, but I'm really honestly not sure why.
Because everybody didn't expect Mad Queen Danny. We're missing a John, or say Johnny for sake of argument. He is taking the night off because he didn't ever get to do that on Friday, so he's doing that today. But he may or may not pop in at one point. But let's get started. Let's just say hi to everybody in the chat first. So we have Linda R, Peter Griffin, OTDA, Forrest Blurda, Otila Angel, Fandom D Saint, who said that at the very beginning that AU is going to throw full shade at the Lannisters. So yeah, there's some good people in the chat and more. And the Imagination Realm. And I will remember this week to talk about her newsletter, which she sent me today, and because I took a peek at it, and it's really cool. So the episode starts off with Varys writing letters to, we don't know who exactly, but he's writing letters, and the long and the short is that it says Rhaegar and Lyanna basically got married. Their son, they had a son. The son survived and was protected and secreted away by Ned Stark. So, who do you think these letters were being written to? And we can talk about it.
You cut out there a little bit.
Oh,
but
just all the Varys stuff, pretty much.
what is Varys doing? Stirring up crap, right? That's what your question is? Yeah, so this is really crazy. I just don't understand. I mean, he hasn't even let the dust settle, as they say, and, let someone die. And before you start jumping on the bandwagon here, jumping on the bandwagon there, next thing you know, he's going to vote for Tyrion for president. It's like, what? Just relax. Take a chill pill. People are going to die. You want to find out what's going on first. But no, he's got to start sending it's like gossip.com. Why does he have to do that? It's just so unnecessary. And he's not even doing it, to people that he knows. It's to everybody. And it's just crazy. By the way, Julianne 089 just dropped in. Hello. Thanks for being here. Thanks for everybody that's here. I really appreciate it. And I know Mackenzie appreciates it too.
John, Mr. Baptiste.
Yeah, I'm really torn about the various thing. I totally see where you're coming from, AU. Like, you're the master of whisperers. You're the keeper of secrets. And now you're blabbing it all over the bloody realm. And by the way, Kenzie, you got to appreciate with AU here, I'm going to keep my mouth really clean. But it, on the same note, it he's, at least Shoverus, seems very heartfelt about he wants what's best for the realm, and he's going to do what he thinks is best for the realm, even at ultimately the cost of his life. So I was kind of torn about the scene. I do love that there's this meme out there with a picture of Varys and it says, "I told you so."
Well, how about the fact that he was trying to poison Dany? That part, nobody really talks about. So do you think he was really poisoning her or trying to?
I think, because it said that she hasn't seen anybody since they arrived back at Dragonstone, and we know that it's been about 2 weeks since the last episode, or presumably about 2 weeks since the last episode-ish, because Jon was traveling with most of the army, and he left when they were at the Trident, which is strange because that's where his dad fell, which is kind of interesting. That he's like, "Oh, where I left them, we were at the Trident," which is interesting. No one picks that up either. So yeah, it's probably been about a week and a half since. And they said that she hasn't seen anybody in 2 days and hasn't eaten for 2 days. So I don't think. I guess he kind of waited almost until Jon was on or close enough to Dragonstone to start trying to attempt to poison her. But I guess what poison would have been, the strangler or something? Like what poison, or like sweet sleep or something? I don't know. I wonder what type of poison that would be not as suspicious. The poison that maybe they used for Jon Arryn? Who knows? Because it'd have to be not suspicious or not make it look like something like, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't really care what kind it was. I just know the fact that he's working with someone in the kitchens trying to get her poisoned. He was obviously not interested in her diet, or whether she was getting quality food. It was definitely a reason.
Yeah. And the little girl who was in the crypts of Winterfell with Varys, Martha. So he had one little bird that was loyal to him. Jon, what about the Mr. Baptiste? Sorry, the little birds with the little girl who was like, she's not eating. And it's like, do you think that they did, like, the little girl? She must be still alive, I guess, even though. What do you think about like the whole attempt of poison situation?
First, okay, in his situation, I think that would be the least controversial way to take her out, and I would have done it probably in a very similar manner, especially if it's poison that doesn't really show. I mean, they couldn't even prove arsenic poisoning until the 19th century. And I think from a logical perspective, that would have been if you want to get rid of somebody, that would be the best way to do so. Also, I think it would have caused the least controversial death. On the same note, there's the big John in the corner. Jon, not a John like us. That really doesn't want that job. So, who's your next go-to? Because I've always said I think Jon just wants to go north, go into his cave, sit around and mope about a grid.
I mean, you might get it next episode. It's becoming more and more a thing. There's some funny comments in the chat about the whole Varys and Dany thing. like Fandom Dictating, who says, "Hold up, she's been starving herself for 2 weeks. I cannot go 24 hours without eating a decent meal." Very funny. So I guess he wouldn't have survived with Stannis when he was making, what was it, book glue stew or whatever that we called it.
I thought it was 2 days, not 2 weeks.
Well, it took. She's been not eating for 2 days, but it's been since Missandei died that she's probably hasn't seen anybody, which has probably been about a week and a half, because it said it took the last episode. They said it took Jon took majority of the Dothraki in Unsullied with him. And their travel from Winterfell to King's Landing would presumably only take 14 days, which makes no actual logical sense because from King's Landing to Winterfell in episode 1, it took them a month. So I don't know. I guess time logic is very strange. So, and for Dany, it only maybe took her a day to get to King's Landing or to Dragonstone by a boat, and presumably the latter part of the episode last week only took like 2 days. So it's been about 14 days ish between those 2 episodes. But yeah, she's only hasn't been eating for 2 days. That's why. I don't know. Time logic is is so crazy on the show, but something like that. Yes, Varys did try to poison Dany before, but Jorah stopped it. With the wine merchant, but because Jorah knew about it, he stopped the poison. But yeah, the fact that Varys openly is like, I know where her coin has landed. Every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. I already know where her coin's landed, and I know I'm pretty sure where your coin has landed. So it's the fact of Varys is just like, well, I know she's gonna go mad. So everybody, Varys is right. Oh, Julian, Johnny's taking the night off. He's been working so hard that his actual night off, he didn't get one on Friday, so he's taking one. But he might pop in if he's feeling up to it. But yeah, so everybody's like, "Oh, Varys," but as we've seen, like John admitted, there's memes out there about Dany and Varys being right. So were you surprised that the Varys being right thing plays out at the end of this episode? We can talk about that in a second, but someone mentioned in the chat, did Varys hear in the flames? Can't remember who said it. Did Varys hear what he feared in the flames when Drogon burned him alive? Like what he was supposed to? Was it Dracarys in the end? Was that when his parts were burned in the brazier?
That would have been an interesting thing for that to happen, don't you? I mean, that's kind of a strange. Yeah, I don't think it was Dracarys, but I think what would be more appropriate is this is going to happen to the rest of your body, because it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, because we know that all of those characters are doomed to die. So Varys is just another Peter Baelish type that's got to go. And D&D were fast and furious to get him out of there. So that's the way you got to look at it. This is going to happen all the way until the very end of next episode.
Yeah, what is it that Qyburn said to Pycelle in the season 6 finale? Gotta push out the old to rush in the new. I can't remember which person said it, but I think someone either online or in a video said that Varys was the last surviving person of the small council in season 1, so they had to kind of push him out of the way to make episode 6, I guess, the resolution of what happens in the next episode make sense or something. I don't know, but
I think it was in Deep Geek.
Oh yes, yeah, I think it's Rob. I think it was Robert. Yeah.
we should have probably said something in the beginning because Johnny Be Crazy's not here. And yeah, best wishes to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend.
Yeah. Johnny, yeah, he's doing okay, but he's just needed a night off. What were you saying, John? About you said something about.
Oh no, I was just saying. I think it was in Deep Geek who said that about
The small count. Oh yeah, the
small
small
count
count.
being eliminated. I'm not positive, but I'll put pounds to pennies on it.
Yeah, I think it was. Now that I think about it, yeah. So, but the fact that Varys got like the one, I think I admitted it in by reaction, but it's like Varys risked his life after you killed your father, Tyrion, to save you, and yet you can't keep your mouth shut for 5 minutes to like save Varys and keep Varys alive. Like, come on, buddy. That just kind of pissed me off. I was just like, you rat him out 5, but he saved you. He could have easily ratted you out and not sent you out of King's Landing, and you would have died. So, what'd you do? The Tyrion perspective, because there's also Tyrion talking to Dany and how she's just like, someone's betrayed me. So we can talk about that part too a little bit.
Well, let's get this out of the way. Tyrion didn't betray Varys. She already knew Varys betrayed her before then because she already knew Jon told Sansa, Sansa told Tyrion, and Tyrion told Varys. She already knew that. That's why she was speaking in High Valyrian to Grey Worm from the get-go. So let's get that right out of the way. It wasn't Tyrion's fault. So yeah, I really thought it was smart of him to confess it as soon as possible, but he's just as guilty as Varys is, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, okay, should Jon have told Sansa? Yes. Should Sansa have told Tyrion? No. Should Tyrion have told Varys? Yes. Should Varys have told everyone else? No. That's kind of my take on the whole progression of that rumor.
It's not rumor, it's fact.
No, well, a rumor can be a fact, but I'm talking about the moral and ethical strains of that conversation.
John, if I could interrupt you, why do you say that Jon should have told Sansa?
Because
there was already tension between the two of them.
Because the pack survives and the lone wolf dies.
But Jon's not part of the pack, dude.
Kind
I know it's a crunchy saying, but yeah, he's not.
No, I see where you're coming from there. I totally see where you're coming from there.
He either tells the world and puts it to bed, or he tells nobody and stays true to what he said.
He didn't ever tell Dany that he wouldn't tell anyone.
No, but Dany gave him very certain terms of the, you tell her, you tell your family, you tell somebody, once everybody finds out, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, well,
and we can't be together.
Telling people what to do,
right? Yeah.
And if they don't do what she tells them what to do, she goes fire and blood.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you there. I'm just saying Jon had no need to tell Sansa. What do you think?
I think Sansa, even more than Arya at this point in the story, is the closest thing to family that he has. Like Arya, nobody's seen for years. And then she pops up and she's like this assassin ninja awesome. Sansa, like, John has actually had, interpersonal communication with for the past season and a half.
Yeah.
I think he felt like this is the closest thing I have to family, except for maybe my incest aunt. So, maybe I can do this, but he isn't thinking about the fact that Sansa's basically Littlefinger with different body parts right now.
Yeah, Littlefinger. She is the student of Littlefinger. She passed all the tests. To kind of answer your question, AU, I think they had to pin the secret blabbing on somebody, and the easiest person to do that on was Sansa, because everybody or majority of the fandom does not care for or does not like Sansa, unlike me. Ha ha ha, sassy Sansa. But yeah, they had to just pin it on somebody, and they had to know, like, they had to make the end game move faster. Plus, in some sense, like Dumb and Dumber or D&D had said, she's a student of Littlefinger, and she knew. She told Tyrion, then Tyrion tells Varys, and like they said on the boat in the very last episode, 8 people know this isn't a secret anymore. It's information. And technically, who knows? More than 8 people could know this information, because someone in the Citadel could have just read it some way, somehow at one point. So maybe 9, 10 people know this information besides the people who have deceased before this moment. But yeah, it's just there's some funny things in the chat. Like, some people are saying, Linda R. Sansa got Ned killed by not keeping a secret. Yes, and not. It's hard to say yes and no, because it's hard to blame a 12, because she was about 12 years old, for adult politics. But I mean, it's hard to say, really, because that's what a lot of people want to go back to, is because Ned kept the secret for 17, 18 years, and Sansa can't keep it more than 5 minutes. I mean, it's like a lot of jumping back and forth. It's like comparing 2 different things. It's like, because it was a secret that needed to be kept, while now everybody's saying Sansa and the gods would and all of that. She could face repercussions for it. Like, she could be killed because she said this, but I don't think they would do that. Do you think that because the secrets come out that they're going to just kill off Sansa in the last episode?
Do you think
very possible? Sorry, John.
Oh, no. I spoke over you, sir.
Oh, no, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, do you think there are going to be, story-wise, spiritual, religious connotations to Sansa violating an oath that she took in front of the heart tree in the Godswood?
No.
I mean,
only because this is not about the spiritual anymore. This is all about fast and furious to the finish line, no looking back, and hang on to your pants.
Yeah, I don't think Sansa will be, like, if it was up to Dany, yeah, sure, she would be charged or with something like lying or not lying, but like
treason, right?
Yeah, treason, or like trying to have Jon usurp her title, but it's Dany usurping Jon's title, if we're actually like going by that, the logic of that. But I mean,
Oh
what
no,
you-
I meant, are there going to be ramifications with the old gods? Because
I mean, sure, but how are they gonna explain that in 80 minutes next episode? Like, I mean, they could have a thing of, ooh, what could happen to her? Like, if they
That
just
could
have
add to the tension between her and John, is the fact that, you know, I know this is your sister, but she's got to go. I can't have an unsupportive person in the North with half my kingdom.
unless Danny dies next episode. We can talk about that when we get to when she starts burning people.
yeah, I don't think John wants anything to do with Danny after this episode.
He even kind of admits to her when Danny is sitting with Grey Worm, and she like gives Grey Worm Missandei's collar, and it's just like, this is the only thing she kept when we went to when we came here. And Grey Worm just throws it in the fire, and the two of them, like, she's like, don't have love here, blah blah blah, and then just John just calls her my queen. He just like, there's nothing there. He like kisses her back for like a tiny bit, but then he just pulls away again. It's like he's kind of rejected her at this moment. Like, he doesn't really want anything to do with her romantically really anymore. Because she says, let it be fear instead of I choose violence.
I think after this episode, John's
Done.
he's done. He's probably kind of finished with it. He's
Although there's all those jokes of, if only John had slept with Danny, it's like, I don't think so. I think
Yeah, it wasn't about that. It was about Danny's lack of support from everybody and her relying on everybody for counsel, and they all give her bad counsel. That's what she looked. That's why she looked the way she did in the very beginning of this episode, is because she was thinking about all that had happened since she landed on Dragonstone, and all she did was try to help people, and it just deteriorated everything that she was trying to help, trying to do.
I don't agree with you on all those points, but the one thing I do have to say is this episode has, for small screen, the best makeup I have ever seen. Danny in Dragonstone, Arya during her 5 concussion trip through King's Landing, the mountain, has to be the best cinematic makeup I have ever seen on the small screen. And if whoever the makeup artist is doesn't get the Emmy for this year, I'm going to drive to California and punch somebody.
Yeah, the prosthetics master. He always, or like the head of prosthetics. He's always in those after the like the behind the or the game revealed those episodes. They always talk about him. They always go to him when because they do all the different, like the VFX, main guy for VFX, camera, prosthetics and makeup and something else. Like, he's mentioned all the time, so it won't be hard to find his information. But yeah. Oh my god, so crazy. Like,
We're
all right,
real things, but that was like one of the big things in my notes.
Yeah, because when Danny is looking over on Dragonstone, her hair is just like all like disheveled, like mad queen status. Before obviously the flip is switched officially on the rest of the audience. Like, to have Amelia look that tired, whether they just were like, don't sleep for 5 days, like, and just have her look that tired, or there was prosthetics to make her look that tired. Pretty awesome.
By the way, who did her hair for the battle? Because, like, her hairdresser lost a foot last week.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just wonder,
Well,
like,
D&D about
did Grey Worm get like
maybe.
reading lessons from Missandei?
I mean the maybe, I don't know, like the Dothraki, I don't know. Well, D&D have had continuity issues with Dany's hair. Like, I think in the Arrival, I don't think we talked about it ever on Episode Club, but in the Arrival scene, there's 2 different wigs for Dany. Like, when she's on horseback, it's one wig, and then when she's meets with Stance and Bran, it's a different wig. I think even in last episode, in the hall scene, it's 2 different wigs that she's wearing. Like, they change her wig or the style of the braids up, like, in the same scene, but it's 2 different hairstyles. Yeah, I don't know. It's like same thing for next, yeah, with the battle though. It's like maybe she did it herself. I don't know. But that's hard to do by yourself unless like someone, like, unless there's like one sole Dothraki woman who's still alive who is able to help her, but I don't know.
I like my Grey Worm as a hairdresser.
Yeah, I think Dany wig game is tight. Yeah. Who's making Dany's dresses after Missandei didn't leave her anything? Because Missandei didn't leave her anything. I don't know. Who's been making all those Targaryen what is it? The sales for all the Targaryens? I don't know. These are the nitty-gritty things that they didn't flesh out. Maybe if we had 4 more episodes, they'd explain that Dany figured out how to do her own hair some way, somehow. Who knows?
Did you say flushed out?
Yeah, fleshed out. Yeah.
You mean fleshed out?
Yeah. It just makes me worked up that we only have 1 more episode, but
No, this is exciting. This is the end. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
I'm totally stoked for this ending.
Yeah. Danny's hair was more disheveled. Julianne 89. Danny's hair was more disheveled than before than from the battle. Yes. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And yeah, we'll talk about the battle. So pretty much, lines are drawn. But before the lines are drawn, we'll talk about the smuggle that Tyrion wants Davos to involve himself in, which is basically get Jaime and Cersei out of King's Landing and bring them close enough to Pentos, or at least to a harbor where they can climb on a boat to go to Pentos, I'm assuming. And like the Jaime and Tyrion scene, I guess we can talk about that. So, did you like it? Was it a little bit weird? What do you think, AU?
In regards to Jaime going through the town,
Or no, the Jaime and Tyrion scene where they're like, "You're the only one I ever loved, or loved me back." Blah blah blah. You were the only one that cared for me, and like the battle stuff. Right.
Yeah, as far as that goes, it just shows that Tyrion has taken a nosedive in the smarts department. I mean, because he just got told, next time you screw up, you're going to be on the Varys barbecue, and he just walks over and unbuckles his buckle and says, "Have a nice day, nice to know you," all that stuff. I mean, that's just the epitome of stupidity. That's just all I can say. That was really dumb. Dumb move on his part. Guaranteed the last Lannister.
Mr. Baptise?
I think he says it right there in his dialogue, though. He's like, we're talking about the lives of tens of thousands, possibly millions, of innocence versus the life of one not so innocent dwarf. Like, I think this is really the full coming of Tyrion's character arc. Is that he's like, yeah, I'm signing my own death warrant. I am. But if I can do this, then I'm going to.
John, who was less smart? Let's put it that way, because stupider is just not the right way to put it.
Well,
But
and it's incorrect grammar.
that never bothered me. So Jamie, who is the King's Guard, he's lived in King's Landing a long time. He should know a way in and out of getting away from where these.
And as Tyrion points out, take the fucking hand off.
That's what I'm saying. It's just
Excuse my language, but
yeah.
like take the hand off. Like
I
seriously.
was wondering what you were doing there. I was like, cover it up, dude.
Like put a glove on, something,
man. But yeah, he just was like right there. Let me just turn myself in, walk up to the gates or whatever. But yeah, that was just a bonehead move. Just the first of many, because obviously his brain was not working on, doing the smart thing.
Yeah, I don't like the past 2 episode shift of Jamie's character, because I really loved the coming around of Jamie Lannister and the character arc and like the redemption story and all that. Anyone who follows any of my stuff knows how much I love Theon Greyjoy and how, as awful of a person he was, he became a good human being and so forth. And I really wanted to see that for Jamie. And this is one of my few criticisms of the show. And I hope the book at least describes it better. Like for me, Jamie pumping dumping Brienne was a lot more out of nowhere than Daenerys burning the entire city. Like for me, I was like, what? And especially because I was one of those people who I was sitting there for the past week. I was like, he's going there to kill her. He's going there to kill her. He's going there to kill her. And he gave Brienne the cold shoulder so that she didn't follow him. And then, no, that's not the case. It was one of my disappointments with this episode, I do have to say. But who do I think's the dumbest? I still think Jamie's the dumbest Lannister. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even given Tyrion's bad writing in the past 3 seasons, I still think Jamie's the stupidest Lannister.
Yeah, because Tyrion, this entire season was resorted to dick jokes. Old lines that he's had through seasons 1 through 4, when he was actually being smart and doing a bunch of things and just making stupid plans that never pan out properly. Like, that's been Tyrion in a nutshell this season, but he's still relatively smarter than Jamie, because Jamie's just like, oh, I'm just going to pour my heart into a Brienne who's never been loved or touched in that way by anybody for Brienne, and I'm just going to leave her in the middle of the night for my sister, who is absolutely insane, just to go and die. But I think it was who pointed. Oh, it was. I think it was some. Oh, Julianne pointed, or I think it was Julian. Someone pointed out that there was. He was acting kind of like Rob when Rob had captured him in season 2, 3. During when Rob wanted to be king. So that's kind of interesting that it's like, ooh, never panned out properly. for the king or the queen in this case that captures him, maybe. But yeah. And we'll talk about how Jamie said he doesn't care about the innocent people anymore, which is total 180 on his character, unless he's been lying this entire series. But we'll talk about now the battle, which takes part of majority of this episode. The Golden Company, now dubbed the Useless Company by Kirsty of Oldstones. I think she was the first person I saw to call them the Useless Company, get wiped out in 5 seconds. Total waste of money on the Crown's part, or Cersei's part, just to have Dany take them all out. And the surrendering, the capital surrenders, only for Dany just to be like, okay, you surrender? Now it's my turn to do what I want. So what did you think about the battle and how it went and all the... We'll get to Clegane Bowl in a bit, but the whole dragons over King's Landing and all that stuff and everybody. John?
I'm going to let John go first because I have a huge rant to go on here that I've been holding on to for 20 years.
Well, I'm going to start off with the scene where Dany comes flying out of the sky. First of all, I just have to give a lot of kudos to the people that put this together, because it is just an epic scene. I mean, if you forget movie, it is just a well put together, cinematically correct TV show, and that's what it is. And for that, I just give it all the props in the world. When she's coming out of there, she obviously learned what to do and what not to do. So I was really excited to see that. 7-4, the Loot Train, was the best episode probably in all of Game of Thrones, possibly. And this was so much better, watching that dragon just burn up everything left and right. It was exactly what you needed to do from the beginning. She was able to take out every defensive weapon made against her, including blowing up Euron's ship, which is the best for me. And then, not only that, but then she, like you said, she just goes directly to the gate, which is what I thought she would have done if she had all 3 dragons, is each dragon get on one gate, and that way all the Dothraki could come in and Unsullied behind them. That would have just been perfect, but this is what she had to do. And man, that is just, for me, it was just the best. I just thought that she thought about it. When Dany puts together a plan, whether it's Marine, Astanpur, whatever it is, when she puts together the plan, it works out perfectly. And this one worked out for me, and I was just 100% behind her the whole time. I'll let John go, or you go.
John, if you want to go and start your rant, if you want to call it that.
I have hated the character of Daenerys Targaryen for 20 years now. I think 20 years. What is it? 2019? Yeah, about 20 years. 18, 19 years, something like that. I've never liked her character. I've never enjoyed her character. I always thought it would end this way. I do understand why some people are upset and they think that this was pushed, but I think there was so much foreshadowing in the entire series that you could see this. Bend the knee, bend the knee, bend the knee, bend the knee, bend the knee. It's like she stutters it. So that didn't bother me at all. And I have always felt that this is exactly how it was going to end. Not exactly. I mean, I'm not going to declare that kind of precognizance, but it Yeah, it didn't surprise me. Now, the shock factor of how it was shot, I thought was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You know, I think that she and Grey Worm, and by the way, since Johnny's not here, we were talking about this earlier. I gotta make the joke. Big Worm, if anybody gets that, watch Friday if you don't, because it's a great movie. Yeah, Big Worm, Grey Worm. But if anybody didn't see this coming, I'm sorry, you're blind. Now they forced it, and I think it's because the season's too short. I don't think there was enough development from like a little crazy Danny to batshit nuts Danny, but if you look back through you totally see it coming. You totally see it coming. Now, when it comes to John had mentioned the ballista. Yes, thank heavens that it was a little more realistic this episode than it was in the last one, because oh my gosh, that drove me insane. The rapid fire ballista, because human beings can't turn a crank that fast, and that drove me insane.
I think it was presumed that 3 of them shot at the very same time to hit Dragon. I think that's how they kind of wrote it off, was that it was just at least 3 of them were accurate enough to hit him at the same time. Plus, he was already weakened from the battle at Winterfell.
Which, by the way, any medieval weapons expert will tell you ballista are ridiculously inaccurate. That's why they attach chains to them, because they're ridiculously inaccurate, because the recoil is going to, especially if it's on a freaking ship, is going to like that drove me nuts about the other. So the fact that it shows that they actually have to reload and all that, like I really liked that about the battle scenes. But yeah, you get to the point, you see Danny. I mean, I knew this was coming, and if you didn't know this was coming, then you haven't been paying attention. Like, if you thought this was going to have a happy ending.
Good old Ramsay Bolton. Yeah, there's a lot of talk in the chat about Danny. Yes, there was the Dario told her that she was a conqueror, not a ruler. Same thing with a dragon queen without no dragons is not a queen. Is what he said to her another time. All rulers are either butchers or meat. All of these other situations. But before the battle even starts, Tyrion tells Jon, if you hear the bells ringing, stop fighting. They barely fought, and they made it, because I'm assuming there was at least 3 gates that they had to get into to at least get relatively close enough to to the Red Keep, because when the Hound and Arya are walking through and Jaime's walking through, we show at least two different gates that they have to walk through, besides the big one, which is where the Golden Company walk through to stand in front. So it's like they were keeping rings. So you can tell the fact that there's separated rings means that Cersei wanted was expecting at least some casualties, but it's the fact that they just goes over them is just insane. But when the gate falls, you're like, I think I said it in my video. So it's like now you expect the Northmen, the remaining Dothraki, and the Unsullied to now start running through fire, because it was like when they were showing it, it was like everybody's still on fire. So I was like, oh, this is gonna work. So it's like some men are gonna catch on fire because of dragon fire. I kind of like expected the amount of people to die that did in the beginning with like the Lannisters and stuff, but it's once the surrender happens and the townsfolk are like surrender, surrender, surrender. You like, and like they're waiting for the bells to ring. It's like, this is kind of giving off of. I didn't think about it until I watched full of the episode, but it's kind of giving off, in some sense, but not with Tywin Lannister and the Lannisters, and Robert Baratheon, which is very interesting. I think there's a history and lore on it if you haven't watched it, for anybody in the chat. I think Mark Addy voices it, and I think Viserys's actor Harry Lloyd voices it. It's entirely like that, and it's but the gates were open obviously when it was Tywin Lannister. But it's just the fact that like even the townspeople are screaming like surrender, surrender, and then Dany's just like, no, I'm gonna just think about this for 2 seconds, and then it's when she sees the Red Keep is where she sees Red, and she's like, wasn't gonna. It's seemingly like she wasn't gonna do it, but then as the scene kept going longer and longer and longer, you're like, okay, she's gonna do something. I kind of felt bad though for Jon because he was like, keep the men back and like don't do anything stupid, because it's like they all just stopped. And then as soon as Dany flies away, you know that something bad's gonna happen. And then Grey Worm just all of a sudden just goes shink. And it's like, what the heck? Because it's like then it just assumes that the two of them had this plan all along, that as soon as the townspeople say surrender, she's just gonna go straight for the Red Keep, and then Grey Worm's just gonna just start the fighting again, because Jon,
I absolutely think it's planned.
yeah, Jon all along was just like, this is not how we're supposed to do things. And once the fighting keeps going, we obviously see, because we don't see Dany anymore, we just see Drogon really just burning everything in the red around the town. But you get Jon and then Arya on the ground as you're following in your guide, and Jon's like, now officially, like you said, Baptise earlier, this is not what I signed up for. I didn't, like, sure, you're my queen when you were gonna do the right thing, but now it's just like, nope. Especially when he had to go and murder his own men. He had to go kill some of his own men for the crimes that happened with war, because Dan is just like, all right, everybody went rogue. I'm not surprised. I don't think either of you were surprised that they went rogue, but it's Jon. Do you feel like for Jon Snow in this moment, the fact of it's like, well, now what do I do? Do I follow the crowd, or do I have to be my moral compass that I've set for myself? Because then we can talk about that in a second. Like Jon in that moment, and Tyrion in that moment when she just like abandons the plan. It's like, well, so.
Are you talking Mr. St. Baptiste?
No,
Mr.
it's like
Mr.
the Jon Snow in the show. So Jon.
Yeah.
But it's,
Wait, were you asking Jon to?
No, either one of you, whoever wanted to go first.
I'll go first since I'm unmuted, if that's okay. Yeah, when Jon realizes what's happening, I think he's in a moment of disbelief, and it wasn't for the fact that he keeps getting attacked by random Lannisters and being pushed from behind. He probably would have stayed in that pattern for a while. But yeah, as far as Tyrion goes, I think he kind of expected it after what happened to Varys. So I don't think it was as much of a surprise for him, although you could tell he was disappointed. But for Varys, I don't really care because he's gone. He's got to go. Despite the fact that he's a Lannister, you know, that alone would cause me to get rid of him. But he's already had like 14 strikes against Dany, so that's the way I look at that. But John, yeah, this is the end of the end for him. All he's trying to do now is survive and not cause any more damage than he has to.
Baptiste.
Yeah, I mean, I think the moment that spear was thrown, John was like, "Why did I call this bitch my queen?" Like,
Sansa was right all along. Like Varys was right all along.
yeah, like I said, I love that meme. There's that meme out there. Picture Varys, and it just says, "I told you so." And yeah, I think the minute that spear was thrown, he's like, "Dub TF." Like, now what am I gonna do? And then especially when his own soldiers, the people who, King in the North, King in the North, King in the North, are all acting, you know, like, but these are the horrors of war. I mean, a lot of people disliked this about this episode, but I think it was one of the best things that was done in it, is that it shows the horrors of war. You know, you both, and probably a lot of people in the chat, know how much of a Tolkien nerd I am, and what encouraged a lot of the way he wrote and a lot of what he wrote is his experiences in the Battle of Somme. And you know, it's the horrors of war. It's bloodshed and rape, and you have young, impulsive men who are given free rein to do whatever they want to the people who have oppressed them. And yeah, it's going to be blood. There's going to be fire, and there's going to be blood. Even without Dany, there will be fire and blood. She just gave it a lot more fire.
A lot more fire. She bring the fire. And because Drogon is like, she's lighting up streets, she's killing thousands of innocent people. Aaron Rodgers apparently was in this episode, and I think he was one of the people that was either, I don't know if he was the actor that tackled somebody or something, but he's apparently in this episode somewhere. I think it was in the first or second shot we get of Drogon barreling down a street, which is kind of funny. If he did tackle somebody, because he is a football star.
Wait, are you talking about the
Green Bay Packer quarterback,
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, he's in this episode.
Yeah.
The Packers. Goal!
He's in this episode. He's one of the small folk in this episode. I can't remember. I'll try and remember where they put him, but yeah, he's in this episode as an extra. It's actually kind of hilarious. But yeah, they burn, and then wildfire just starts blowing up, which we all know. I guess we all knew where it was gonna happen, because dragonfire. So it's like dragonfire and wildfire. I'm surprised not more of the city burnt down. because of it. But there's some awesome questions in the chat. Or not questions, statements in the chat. Sasuke says, did you see the meme of Jack as the white horse? A man is a horse now. And apparently it's on Chrissy of Old Stones' Instagram. I haven't seen that, but I'll have to go check that out afterwards. But yeah, AU, the brand is like Vegas's favorite in the odds to win the Iron Throne in the end, which makes no
Who is?
like Vegas, Las Vegas, the odds for who sits the Iron Throne in the end, it's in Brand's favor. It's like 85% in Brand's favor. Vegas bet wise. So it's like, oh, does Vegas / the world
always bet on the house? The house knows.
Brand's sitting at 1-3 right now. John is sitting at 1-7. Danny is sitting at 1-9. It's a pleasure, not a problem.
Yeah.
In regards to the, who will sit on the Iron Throne and all that, I think the best thing for us to do is to stop doing that, because we disappoint ourselves in the fact that we get so excited about what we think and where the story is going to go. And that's been one of the reasons why I think most people, including all of the great YouTubers that we followed forever, have been so disappointed and so disgusted. I know they've made just absolute bunghole mistakes with the, my name is Rivers, and now I'm going to be Lord Baratheon. I know the coffee cup threw everybody off, but if you just take a step back and look at this as a TV show, I think you're going to be absolutely happy with the way this is going to end. And I think that's where we should go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. It's like, enjoy it. Like, there's only one type of, like, this show is like one of those shows that only comes around once in a while. And we should enjoy it. Yes, we can nitpick, but enjoy it. Like, it's gonna end next week. Like,
yep,
enjoy it. But yeah, I don't know. And then
absolutely agreed. It for me, it always takes me back. Like I've said, I'm a huge Tolkien nerd. I love the Lord of the Rings films. And one of the best decisions they made was to leave Tom Bombadil out of the films. It was one of the best decisions they made, because he would have on screen been Jar Jar Binks. And it was a really good decision to just leave that out of there, leave that out of the narrative that you're trying to tell, especially when you're trying to tell a 22-year narrative in a 3 month
3 hours. Yeah,
it worked well. It was well done. It was well thought out, and I agree with you entirely. I hit the point right around season 4 where I just separated my show enjoyment from my book enjoyment with the Song of Ice and Fire. And I enjoy the show as the show. And I enjoy the book as the books. I do, as I said earlier, have to say that I think adding an episode or 2 to this season for character development might have been helpful, and certainly would have made the fan base a little less divisive. But it's a good episode.
yeah, it's reported that D&D was offered by HBO more money to add more episodes, and they're like, nope, I don't want more money. It's like, because they're that done with the show. It's like
Mhm.
you could have just given it to somebody else for like 2 more seasons, or at least add an extra episode. Just one. That's all you need is just one more episode. Like you told a pretty full story in 7 episodes last season. So why not just do another 7 instead of 6? Just to make 73 a cool amount of episode number.
They've got that Lucasfilm cash.
Yeah. But now there's petitions on like change.org to like remake season 8 and to also fire D&D from Lucasfilms, basically like writing to whoever's has the what's it called, like the domain over Lucasfilms, to just be like, please replace D&D with somebody else. I saw those links floating around on like Facebook and stuff. It's just, please fire D&D. But I don't know, like they adapted real like what George called almost an inadaptable series for television or for
This
movies.
is true. This is very true.
So we can't dog on them too much. But
yeah, I think it was very hard for them to get past after the Red Wedding, because that was their finish line from the beginning, and so once they achieved that, it was very hard for them to continue. But that's not an excuse to allow some of the things that they've done, because they enjoyed the books. That's why they took this project on. They actually sought out George in a way that nobody in our fandom would do. I mean, we wouldn't have the balls to do that at all. So I think the fact that they did go after it, they tried to take on this project. I give them a lot of kudos for that. I just wish that the simple mistakes that they had made could have been prevented by putting some people that know the books in place. It would have just been really simple for them to fix it.
yeah, there's a question about if it was their contract. I mean, it's HBO. They could have given it to somebody else, but it's possible that they had a contract that it was given just to 2 of them. But HBO,
that's the way I understand it.
But HBO now has all the properties for the World of a Song of Ice and Fire, including all of the spin-offs, like the prequels, which there's news on that. I don't think Imagination will put it in there, but there is news that the working title or the project name for the prequel, which is filming now, I think, or starting to film in the next couple weeks, is called Blood Moon for some interesting reason. I forget why, but yeah. So I think it was
They're
just
going to make it into a vampire series. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you know what Blood Moon is?
I can't like I probably do. It's just my head's just like
John, did you ask what Blood Moon is?
Yeah, what an actual blood moon is.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, we've had a couple of them. It's but yeah, they're calling it Blood Moon as of right now.
No. I'm talking about the actual like phenomena that really happens. Like,
yeah, I do. I just can't remember at this moment. Peter Griffin says, "Sookie Stackhouse." Yeah.
It's a version of a lunar eclipse when they light of the sun, the way it hits the moon, it's all red. It has to be a full moon. It has to be a close full moon, and there has to be a lunar eclipse going on.
John, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the people in the chat.
Linda R is like Twilight in Westeros.
Yeah, and Sasuke says Blood Moon. It's all about women's periods. Yep. Suppose episode title for an
I am going to shut my mouth on that topic.
There we go.
But yeah, well, seemingly Dany hasn't had no signs of pregnancy yet, so who knows? She may not have ever have her blood moon anymore. But to come back to that another topic. But
Yes, you should probably get back to the episode.
we can talk about Arya and the Hound
leave
and
it.
the Game Bowl if you want. Game Bowl was dubbed by everybody. But Arya and the Hound's last goodbye.
That's a great topic, actually.
Mm-hmm. So
why don't you go first?
Arya and the Hound. Well, they kind of sneak into King's Landing, which I'm like, of course these two are gonna. I knew I was gonna do something, but as soon as Dany starts attacking the Red Keep, that something's gonna go down. I think I said my reaction. I'm like, if Arya gets killed by falling rocks in the Red Keep, I'm gonna riot. Because like she makes it all the way up, she does all this stuff. She kills the Night King, and then she just dies by falling rocks. I'd be like, it'd be such a D&D ending for her character, but I'm just like, what? But Arya and the Hound, I think, of course, he could have had a conversation like that with Sansa. He kind of does, even though it's really awkward in episode 4 with Sansa. But because he didn't have as much of a developed relationship as he does with Arya, that is such a meaningful last conversation. It's like, don't choose revenge your entire life. I've wanted revenge my entire life, and it's made me who I am today. And I think it's just as Johnny calls him, Stepdaddy Sandor put her on the right path to make her a person who she kind of wants to be, but to push in a different direction. I feel like Arya has at least one more kill up her sleeve. Cough, cough. Possibly Dany. But it's to put her in the right direction, because they made that emphasis of brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes. The only people in seemingly Westeros that have green eyes are the Lannisters. And I think Dany, like in some light, her eyes look green, but then her eyes look blue. So it's like
Purple.
In the show. They didn't give her purple contacts like in the show. They could say that it was that, but because obviously Dany's not going to die by the hands of Arya probably in the books. But it's something like that, because she also says, I want to kill the queen. The queen for so long was Cersei. So like Dany, by the end of this episode, is officially the queen. So it's like she could do that. And as per the video that I made, which had no real quote unquote ending about Jon and his relationships with Ygritte and Dany, it's following a similar path. Like Jon and Dany's relationship is following a very similar path to his and Ygritte's. So if Dany even is taken out by something mortal, like an arrow, by someone that Jon used to had affections for, Ollie and maybe Arya, that it's like would be just a complete mirroring almost to the end, because a lot of people say it'll be by Jon's hand. Apparently, there's things about saying that it's most likely Jon's hand, but it would just be such an interesting development if it was by Arya because of what's happening. But I don't know. See, I'm rambling, and there's just so many people in. But to go back to talking about Sandor and Arya, it's a great scene, because it's basically giving that last advice to Arya that says, don't do what you want to do, because I'm about to do what I want to do, and it's going to end horribly. So, and plus we also had to have somebody on the ground besides Jon, and give Arya that big montage moment to replace the montage moment of her running through Winterfell to get to the Night King. That's all I gotta say. And then I'll go back to Clegane after you two. But go ahead.
So I just thought it was perfect, because we needed Arya to come back from this bloodthirst that she's had, since Ned died. And yeah, I agree. She went really dark, and she went dark big time, and she does need to come back. I mean, that was pretty obvious when she and Gendry had sex. It was just like, where is this going? because she just needs to come back and be a girl, be a woman again. And so I think that was the first step. But this is where she could really make a big difference in her journey and become a non-assassin human being that can grow a heart, as they say. And so that's where I think that was going. The funny thing is that if she would have just waited another 3 minutes, she would have had a chance to kill Cersei and no problem. She wouldn't have had to do anything really, because Cersei was running down the stairs going, you take care of this, I'm out. But I'm really glad that she was able to leave that blood on the table and move on. And we'll see what happens. I don't really have a lot of confidence that she'll be able to make the moves that she could, because of the only one episode left and all that has to be dealt with. But if we don't see her again, in my mind, it would be because she's moved on.
Baptiste?
I'm really torn. I like the character development a lot. And I agree with AU that this is making Arya more than the Dark Assassin who she's been made out to be for the past 2.5 seasons. But she's almost too sympathetic, but that like makes you like her even more. Is how sympathetic she is. I love how there's the entire, I don't even know if the character's named, but I love that there's the entire character arc with the
woman? With the little girl?
Yeah, the unnamed woman and the unnamed little girl.
Her name apparently in the captions is Nora. Like if you watch it with the captions on, apparently her name is Nora, I think. Because I don't think the little girl is ever given a name. I know the woman's name is Nora, I believe. Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm so in love with my pet theory that Arya goes back and becomes the kindly woman. But you have to let go of your pet theories. That's part of being an adult. I'll get to all my Arya stuff at the very end of this, if that's okay. But I love that these next scenes were shot from a single character perspective. And once again, it gets back to what I was talking about earlier. The makeup in this episode is amazing. And by the way, that poor young lady has had like 14 concussions in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, she needs a brain scan. Multiple brain scans.
like she's like a worse case than any NFL player.
Yeah, she's just like I'm surprised there's no like off scenes of her going like, "Ow, my head." It's like she just keeps going.
Because she's that badass. Because she's Arya fucking Stark of Winterfell.
You know what I mean?
And no rock is going to get in her way.
Falling stones? No.
She's not a Lannister. No rock is gonna defeat me.
No rock. Yeah. Except, no, I don't think we touched on that, but there is that Arya. Well, kind of did. It's like the split scenes between Arya and Sandor when Arya is being trampled by a bunch of the small folk, and then Sandor being knocked down by the mountain. I wonder why they did that. Like, they didn't really flesh that out. I just mean that they're like similar to the same person.
Since John and I are both Tolkien fans, I'll tell you exactly why. That was a nod to Frodo at Mount Doom when him and Sam were trying to get the ring to, the lava. And they did that in that movie where they would go from him to Pip, and they would just go back and forth between the two scenes, and it just made it cinematically perfect. That's the way I looked at it. Matter of fact, if you look at her makeup and the struggles, it's almost identical to what Frodo had on his face.
Mm.
Yeah. It and you see Arya, who and there's also the entire exterior dialogue. You know how badass Arya is. Like, we all as viewers know, like, she's the cat's tits. And she's coming out of this looking like a mess. And it's really interesting that she goes from 2 episodes ago, like, and a lot of people are going to say this is bad character development. I think it's great character development. 2 episodes ago, she says to the Hound, "Yeah, I'd probably leave you to die again." To now, she's like, "We need to get out of here now." And like trying to get the people to come with her. I think it's amazing character development. And a lot of people say, "Oh, it was too quick." Just like Danny going batshit nuts was a little too quick. But I think Danny's been batshit nuts since season 1, episode 1.
Yeah. She's turned into Viserys, like, entirely. Like, she's doing what Viserys could have done, 100%. It's those scenes where she's like, "I don't have love here, you do." It mirrors back to Viserys when Danny had successfully eaten the horse heart, and it's him after that. It's like, they love her. They're cheering and applauding for her and screaming for her, but not for me. She has turned to her brother 100%, which is the craziest thing, which a lot of people are like, "No, she wouldn't do that." Yeah. It's because John is the one with the halo around his head being like, "Oh," that she turned into the one person, like Vera said, do not turn into the one thing that you struggled your entire life to do. And what does she do? She does it, which just proves that it's been coming. And John, there are videos. People have made tribute videos where they use all the clips that show Danny just going crazy from the beginning of time on the show to this current point in time. So the hate for 20 years, it's totally warranted. But Game Bowl stairwell. Why did you enjoy that it was in the stairwell? I know Johnny's point on it is that there was, if you check back on Monday's stream on his channel, but I can't remember the reference that he gives at this moment. But there was twins that were fighting in a stairwell. I think it was in Fire and Blood. I can't remember though.
I'll give my one thought on this because I really want to hear what AU has to say. But Anakin, I have the high ground.
That is so. That's just classic. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why they did that. Obviously, they wanted to get the distance from where they fell from to the ground, as far as possible for dramatic reasons. But um, it's the one. Honestly, it's the one small criticism I have of this episode is not showing really why either one of them wanted their brothers killed. I mean, yeah, I totally understand Sandor's motivation as far as when he was younger and even when he was at King's Landing serving Joffrey, but he had several opportunities to, attack his brother or go after his brother before he was in the battle with Oberyn at Tyrion's trial. But what it just dumbfounds me on what really motivated both of them to, during this Dragonfire battle with wildfire going off, millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people all over the place, royalty, and at the Red Keep, all of that said, they just want to kill each other. I wish there was a little bit of explanation there. But in regards to that, it was one of the best person on person battle since Brienne and Sandor in season 5. I just thought it was one of those fun, I can't kill you Frankenstein guys against the guy that will always, be a fan favorite no matter what happens. So I'm glad it ended the way it did. If you're going to go out on Game of Thrones, that's the way to do it, with a dagger through your skull. It's just pretty cool way to do it. So yeah.
What do you have to say? I mean, you've got two people, and one is a zombie, and the other one is fuck the king. Like, I can understand their motivation to not really care about any of the other stuff that's going on. I mean, I see where you're coming from entirely, but on the same note, I think they're such driven characters that they didn't even give a shit. They were just like, "Oh, hey, let's do this."
It's like trimming the fat even more. Kill Qyburn and like all the kill list just like in one foul swoop. And
what'd you think of the Qyburn kill?
it's just like just the creator gets killed by its creation. Isn't that like Frankenstein? Something like that. So I haven't read Frankenstein yet. I think I might have, but as like a short or a snippet of it in high school, but I sat down and fully read it. But yeah.
Not to shout out other people's channels, but Robert from In Deep Geek, his second channel, he's narrated Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So that'd be a good opportunity for you to listen to it, at least from someone that you know. But yeah, I would definitely 100% agree with you, Mackenzie.
Do it. You want to.
Yeah, Robert is awesome.
Kids are.
Robert is awesome, and he does a lot of cool stuff, and he's just awesome. But the Game Bowl, it was cool, and like Septicina Secret says, it's like the Drogon was like the military flyover before the Super Bowl, which is kind of funny, but it was the big payoff moment that we got, and it's been building and building. It was pretty cool. Like, I think we haven't had like a close fight like that since Tyrion's trial in the Vale, where it was like stairs with Bronn and was it Sir Vardis Eden or something like that in season 1. something like that. It's like where it was like if stairs were involved in a fight. So it was well done. I'm surprised they gave us the payoff on what the mountain looks like without his helmet on. And with the Sandor almost being kind of like Oberyn for 5 seconds, and he's just like, yeah. But I think it's Sasuke that mentioned, did the mountain know that, or the mountain, did Sandor know that there was fire at the bottom? Most definitely. If dragon fire is like flying all around, you know that there's fire. And I feel like he faced two fears. He faced his brother, and he faced his fear of fire. So he checked off two things off of his list before, his own personal list, I guess you could say, because Arya had her own before he died, and it's awesome. Rip to Sandor. But the fight, another fight that we can kind of talk about, which not really of a fight, but how they marketed it. The Clegane Bowl and then the Dane Bowl, which is Euron versus Jaime. I think I said it was like, if they just killed Jaime right here, this just is like Barris and Selmy all over again. What did you think about the pirate or Hot Topic guy versus the Kingslayer?
You go first on this one.
Me? Oh, I think in my reaction I was just like, this is just so stupid. I'm like, he survives the sea and then was just waiting for Jaime to show up. And it's also doesn't make any sense that Jaime's got two probably large stab wounds, and yet he's capable of walking. Yet Lancel gets what in because assuming they were shot near his kidney for Jaime anyway, but yet Lancel gets one to the kidney in 6'10" and just falls like a sack of potatoes on the ground. So like that's suspending reality a lot. And then when he kills Euron, it's just like, oh, a bunch of bones crushing. But I'm surprised they didn't talk about the whole baby thing at all. I guess it was because it's like, oh, the audience already knows that it's Jaime's and blah blah blah. But we never got Euron's reaction to the fact that Tyrion knew about the baby, even though Euron found out like 5 minutes before the parlay in the last episode, which they could have fleshed that out, but they didn't. Whatever. But I mean, it was good. It was just kind of stupid. It kind of was like Barris and Selmy a little bit if it was Jaime that was to die there, but because then the whole thing of him going and finding Cersei, walking all of those stairs up to find Cersei on the map with the room with the massive map to then walk all the way down again. It's like, and him not be at least somewhat winded or like a lot more winded makes no sense. But go ahead. Who at you?
It was okay. No, it was okay. I didn't have any bad parts about it. You know, it was obviously set up perfectly so they could get this over with as quick as possible. It wasn't designed to be great. I'm totally glad that's over. You know, Jaime dying is the best thing that could have happened for me. I really I really wanted him to die painfully after what he did to Brienne. Forget everything else, but what he did to Brienne was just dead wrong, 100%, and he couldn't have died more painfully, as far as I'm concerned.
John?
Okay, so this fight. First, the knife to the kidney. You're gonna live for probably a good 5-10 minutes. And you can still move. You are still capable of movement. What Jamie did in the battle with Euron is stab him directly through the stomach and straight through the spine, which basically made him paraplegic at that moment. Also, it was a stomach wound, which that's going to make the rest of your body parts bleed out. Everything in your entire digestive tract is going to start bleeding out. So your intestines, your esophagus, all of that's. Getting beyond that, I liked the gritty realism of this fight outside of the blades part. I liked the smack in the face with the gold hand. I thought this for me is might be the best one-on-one, at least best portrayed realistically one-on-one physical combats of the entire season. It was gritty. It was nasty. It was. There was nothing pretty about it. It wasn't, something out of The Princess Bride. It was the way a fight really happens, and I did like that quite a bit. I also liked Captain Lack Sparrow dying. That made me really happy. Because Kenzie, how much of a Book Sparrow fan I am. Sorry, Book Euron fan I am. And how much I hate Show Euron. But I can't say anything bad about the scene just because I felt that the choreography of the battle of the fight was well done.
Yeah, it was well done. And people are pointing out in the chat, if Jamie hadn't had that fight with Euron, then him and Cersei probably wouldn't have died the way that they did. Which is very true. I can't remember who they can might have. Yeah, because Jamie somehow miraculously finds Cersei in the map room, and he brings her back downstairs to go run away, but that doesn't happen. So the Lannister twins die at the bottom of the Red Keep, which mirrors the beginning of the first episode when they're in the top of a tower, and they're like one of their first it's their first on-screen scene together is them at the top of a tower, and then their last on-screen scene together is them at the bottom of a tower, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I guess we'll talk about Cersei's death. AU, I know you'll trigger fandom in the chat even more, but was Cersei's death the way you expected it to be?
I really didn't expect her to be crying like a little bitch. Sorry if I offended anybody. But
who you're sitting on a panel with? Like, I am the most foul-mouthed person of all time.
But she just was whining and whining and whining. I'm like, Really? You could have just ran out. I don't get it. Just go. There was nothing. I mean, she wasn't the one that got, stabbed in the back. She was fine. Obviously, everything is gone from her, but yeah, I'm glad Jamie was there for her. They both deserve to die together like that. It was just amazing. Yeah, sorry, Linda R. I knew that would offend you. My apologies. But yeah, she needed to go out big time. As a matter of fact, if Sandor pushed the mountain out with her, that probably would have been a little bit more apropos for me, because fandom would have caught her at the bottom um, during that fall. He would have made sure there was no fire. Yeah.
You know what's funny, John, is that Linda R calls you out on your language and never calls me out on mine.
She expects it from you, I think.
Yeah, it's the conflicting Johns with the language. The amount of language is susceptible for each. But Baptiste, how did you feel about Cersei's death?
Oh, the Rockland Choir.
It's safe now, fandom. You can come out from the behind the microphone. Sorry, John.
No. Ooh, I'm really torn. Okay, so the Shakespearean person who spends an entire month's salary on season opera tickets loved the way that Jamie and Cersei died. I mean, I do. I thought it was perfect. The guy who comes home on Sunday night after getting off of work and just wants to drink a beer and watch Game of Thrones. I thought it was a little cheap. Does that make sense?
No, I get it. A lot of people probably came up with thousands of videos on how she was going to die.
But I am not going to sit and start an online confrontation about it. Because they're so... Can I make a PSA?
Go right ahead.
Please.
Go right ahead.
In the fandom, please. It's a show based on a book. It's not worth getting mean and nasty to people about. Just enjoy it. I like Wagnerian opera. And that's pretty much what the show has become. And I'm fine with that. Ron Givaldi is a great composer. He's not Wagner, but he's still a great composer. And George R. R. Martin is a great writer. He's not Tolkien, but he's a great writer. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy the books. Enjoy the show. Don't be mean to each other, regardless. I saw so much nasty when I went to con. I'm 50-50 about canceling my trip to Con of Thrones. Just because of how much nasty I saw at Con of Ice and Fire. During my few sober moments, which I'll admit I had very few. But seriously, okay, there's my PSA.
No, it's entirely it's valid. Because people are up in arms. Like a lot of people, like I think I said on Monday on Johnny's stream, a lot of people are saying online that they don't want to watch the final episode. Why? Why quit one episode before the show is over? Why? There's only one like this is the last episode ever that Game of Thrones will be premiering a new episode ever on TV. Every single time after this, it'll be a replay of an old episode that you've seen 100 times before. Why stop right now? It's the last episode, and if you don't watch it while it's airing with everybody else in the fandom, barring your time zone, of course, you won't get that moment or that satisfaction ever again of
I watch
watching.
I watch it 3 hours after the rest of you because that's when I get home from work.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like when it's that moment of
Nice
what.
because I don't have the.
Yeah. But it's that, but you know what I mean. It's like watching that, like with John. Like there's people on like Pacific time zones that would watch it around like relatively around the same time anyway. So it's like watching it with a person in somewhat other time zones. Like it's being in a group in that realization. So it's like just don't quit. Basically what we're saying is just don't quit on the show now. You've spent whether it's 6 months with this show or 8 years at this point, with the 8 to 10 years with this show, just don't quit now is basically what John's saying.
20 if you include the books.
I said the show, but yes, 20 if it's book and show.
Like I mean, I remember I read. I literally sat in this ugly green chair, and I read a Game of Thrones and a.
Clash of Kings.
I'm sorry.
Clash of Kings.
Clash of Kings. Thank you. Like in one sitting, outside of like bathroom breaks.
And a snack break.
And I might have made some food. I think I grabbed like some cheese out of the fridge or something like
that. Yeah. But yeah, it's that moment where you're just like, I need to, yeah, it's like enjoying.
Like, seriously, you're sitting here and being unpleasant about this past episode.
Yeah. It's just like you cannot. Yes, I get the hate because it's like it's rushed or like the whole Danny thing doesn't make too much sense. But it's like if you look back and think about it, it does make a bit of sense. It's just because I guess people didn't want to see her turn that way. But like, but it's that whole thing is like you have to have the good. There's only 2 Targaryens left, and you have to have the good one and you have to have the bad one. So now it's like the good and the bad one have to fight it out now.
I don't care how many people are going to suggest it. I am not going to put Crazy Bitch on my channel. Sorry. No, I am not.
Stop talking about Mackenzie like that. That's really rude.
Damn it. Yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody what your rating was for this, Mackenzie, or were you going to save that for later?
I think, did we go through? I think we kind of cover everything because the last thing is just Arya riding out of King's Landing. So Arya makes it out of King's Landing alive, which is unsurprising. Yeah, so yeah, John Davos. Everybody makes it out of King's Landing that needs to. Sorry, what?
I mean, I was just saying the entire Arya end scene, like that's like the last 20 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, just a montage of Arya. But it was good. Like I think I did say it in my video. I'm like, how is this possible for the horse just to stand there? I'm like, how is this possible? Like everything else is just utter destruction, and yet there's a horse standing right there. How is this possible? And then after seeing everybody else talk about it, I'm like, that's why. Because it's supposed to be like a whole book thing, and then as well as some storytelling thing, biblical things, like all of these types of things. But I'm just like, how is she still like this? But Dany became Queen of the Ashes quite quickly. So you two, the horse. I know you were talking about this pre-stream a little bit, but Arya's kind of montagey moments, and then we'll do ratings and stuff.
I love Arya's montage. I love that she has to go through like right after she has this moment with Sandor. By the way, I just lost my stream. So if I don't respond to you in the chat, I apologize. My tablet just shut down. You see Arya go from the faceless one to being Arya Stark. Like, she made that statement at the end of season 7, episode 7, when she says, "I'm Arya Stark of Winterfell." Or was that season 6, episode 10?
There's the one where she's talking to Jaqen, and then there's the other one after she kills Baptise, which is the one where she's talking to Jaqen is 610.
610. Okay, when she says, "I'm Arya Stark from Winterfell," and now you see, like, she really is Arya Stark of Winterfell, and that really struck me quite heavily. Keep in mind, I'm the biggest original Arya Stark fanboy, but I did like that progression that she had from that point, which I think there was some of that at the beginning of this episode still, to watching this human suffering, and now she is Arya Stark Winterfell. Like, she actually cares about these people. But it doesn't change the fact that she's what she is, which is a fracking assassin. Like, she's a ninja assassin, badass warrior who can rip the hell out of just about anybody. And we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I like the entire montage with Arya, trying to save people, trying to help people. I thought it was so well done. Yeah.
8.
In regards to the horse and Arya at the end, I didn't give it a whole lot of symbolism, other than the fact that this was her escape. I attribute it more to Bloodraven, the fact that it was a white horse with the red markings on it than anything else. But I didn't even think of it that way in too much detail. It was just, this is just a connection between Arya and her humanity. A little bit more than what she was able to do with the little girl and her mother and the girl's mother, because she wasn't able to save them. So again, just an escape, and hopefully it'll be a way for her to go back to her being a human being and a young woman and go from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, nice.
So this is the change up of the newsletter from the Imagination Room. Go check out the Imagination Room on Facebook and the website. So the designs change up a little bit. So I'll zoom in so you guys can see. So the Imagination Room has her review about the episode. There's a more lengthy review, but basically it just says that that Danny was part of it is Danny was experiencing adrenaline, a family history of mental illness, several defeats in a row, losing several beloved ones within the past few weeks, being rejected by her love, and being betrayed is probably partially the reasons why she did what she did. And then there's my stuff, which I can talk about at the end. But there is a documentary that's coming out after next week on the 26th, if memory serves me correctly, of dates. And it's called The Last Watch. And it's a 2-hour documentary about the final season of the show, like a backstage look. And in part of it, they show their final read through of the script as table read, and Kit Harington goes from smiling to crying, whether it's because of what actually happened in this script or because it's the last episode. Who knows? But these are a demographic, or not demographic, a graphic of the ratings for the episode. And I believe it was just put out today that episode 5 actually had the most amount of watchers this entire season, with like 43 million people tabulated between watching it on TV to HBO Go and HBO Now, and then replays, which is, I think, the most, because they expected 1 billion people to watch the show entirely, which I don't know if it's 1 billion, but pretty dang close.
That's an awful lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's 1/6 of the world.
yeah, they expect that many people to watch the 8th and final season of the show. I heard that statistic somewhere on the news, and I'm like, what?
6147%.
Yeah. But yeah, there's all of this stuff. And yeah, Mad Queen foreshadowing and germs. Germ also said that I know it was put out that Barristan, the actor who plays Barristan Selmy, said that the books were finished. George had to come out and say that that's not true, and that he's apparently not done Winds of Winter, which could be possible, but I think he's probably done Winds of Winter, and just waiting. That's probably in his contract after season 4, was to not put out any new material until the series is finished. But who knows? He could be actually telling us the entire truth, because Germ has a problem with consolidation. But before we go down that rabbit hole of Germ in the books, we will wrap up. So, oh, to read it? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll do it again on next week. I'll make sure to click on them next week. But yeah, so I don't think there's any more questions in the chat. Oh,
Well, just to clarify, in regards to Barristan, Ian, he said that he was told. He didn't say that George had told him this, or Dan and Dave had told him this. He just said that he was told. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Who knows? I think there was like the one thing about the pregnancy. At this point, she may use if Danny is gone completely mad, she may use a pregnancy thing to kind of keep her alive. but she may admit it as she's dying that she was pregnant. But who knows? Anyways, ratings, and so we can let these people go. What do you rate them?
May, may I throw out one thing?
Yes, and then your rating.
And then my rating.
Where to find you, and then we'll go.
And I came up with this on myself, but a lot of other people have, and so I don't want to take away from them. I think there's a huge significance to Arya Stark riding off on a white horse. If anyone is, I wouldn't even say a biblical scholar, just somebody who's read the Bible or knows Arya riding off on a pale horse, I think is very representative of something. My rating, I actually wrote this down. Is an 8 out of 10 makeup Emmys. Because this episode should have an Emmy for makeup. Awesome. Amazingly done. And the one thing that watching the post show, I screamed in my notes, Dave, look at the bloody camera. Yeah, Tyrion Lannister. Look at the camera, Dave. Look at the camera. Please.
And what do you have coming up, John, for your channel? What?
Every day we're doing a new track to define each episode of this season. Tomorrow will be track number 4. And I am leaving them out on Saturday for viewer votes. The overwhelming winner for this week's for season 8 episode 4 was This Means War by Busta Rhymes, which is an awesome track. Do I put it out at anything but awesome tracks? That's kind of what I do. But yeah, my very small fan base was all over that. So that's going to be the one.
And then Cylon Johns.
And then, of course, there's this thing that I do with yourself and Johnny Be Crazy and Amy Truer Than True, who I broadcast with earlier tonight, and Bobby Catalano and Clarissa Thompson, which is the Cylon Johns, where we talk about Battlestar Galactica episode by episode. And we're getting into the real fucking nitty gritty. And by the way, the podcast for this week came up tonight.
Yes.
And I'm just giving you a heads up right now, Mackenzie. The next episode is going to... Everything you think right now, it's going to be flipped.
Spoilers.
Oh no, that's not spoiler.
Anyway.
Warning.
Anyway, hey, what do you got? I know you don't do too much on your own channel because you're on with everybody else, but what do you have coming up?
Yeah, I have a the movie Tolkien review that'll be coming up soon. I'm also going to finish the Origins of Winterfell. I've been working on that, and I will probably continue doing live streams for the rest of the week. I've been putting them off, thinking that somebody would have something different to say than I do, but it seems like everybody's really been on average negative, and I just want to point out some of the good things that haven't been said, including some of the things that have been said tonight. I was really happy with all the positivity, especially coming from all the great people in the chat, and John and yours. Comments were just fantastic. So I'm glad that I was on, and thank you for having me. I gave this a 9 out of 10 for this episode. I haven't been that way all season long, but I definitely am looking forward to episode 6, of course. And the one thing I can say without any hesitation is I'm really looking forward to seeing Pedro Pascal in The Mandalorian. That'll be on Disney Plus coming out. That's going to be an awesome series. I'm not sure if I'm going to go see any of the D&D Star Wars, but I would definitely I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do in that project, because it's going to be just one movie every 2 years rather than 10 episodes of hour-long top-notch stuff every year. So hopefully it'll be an encouragement. But the Tolkien movie will be an awesome review. I'm looking forward to everybody's opinion on that.
AU, should I go see Tolkien or not?
Oh, 100%, without a doubt.
You know how much I am.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't seen it twice already, like I have.
I have this thing called a job.
No, me too. I do too. So I totally get it. Yeah.
But so if I can scroll up quickly to just call out a few funny ones. I know there was funny ones. I think it was Sasuke 7.5 because Sandy's dead, and mostly because of what they did to Jamie. Osila Angel. 9 Sandor sibling smackdowns. Or the Imagination Realm 7.75. Gold throat chops. OTDA gives this 9 out of 10 for sure. 10 out of 10 if Sandor had lived. I think BBM said 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 if Yara had killed Euron.
Ooh, right. Yeah, that was a good comment.
Yeah, there's some good. I'll have to re-look at everybody's what everybody gave this episode, because it's still split, but it's relatively high. My kind of final thought for this episode is it's a good last or second to last episode for the series. It really pushed Dany into the direction that she was supposed to be in, because Emilia did say that you may not like Dany at the very end of her character, and her last scene proves who she actually truly is. So it's a good episode overall. I originally gave it an 8.5 because I gave episode 4 8.75. I'll keep it about an 8.5 because it was good, but I can see why people give this 9 and above. 8.5. Varys's spidey senses were right. And with that, you can catch me here. I should be putting out 1 or 2 videos. I should be doing another makeup video per my Patreon, where they wanted me to do a Sansa Stark inspired makeup look, which is pretty awesome. And I might do another video after that. I'm not sure. I'm also on Cylon Johns, and on Johnny's channel on Friday, we'll be talking about all the pre-stuff before the final episode. And go check out Johnny's channel. His links are always in the description, and everybody's links, whether they're on Episode Club or not, are always in the description. And with that, we will see you all in the next episode club for the final episode. Bye, everyone.